Hello, it is Friday, January 18th, and this is the 7th episode of the 2Close2Call cast. We got a lovely episode ahead for you today, but you know what else is lovely? All the t-shirts made by the Ram King. Visit www.theramking.com for all your t-shirt needs. He's a buddy of ours, an avid listener, and he gives away free designs, free delivery. The turnaround time is in less than a week. He does any order, any size t-shirt. He's the best in the business. So if you guys have any t-shirt leads or need any t-shirts, give us a shout out on our Instagram page. Email us. We'll get you in touch with the best there is in the business. Like I mentioned, we got a phenomenal show ahead for you. We have a tremendous conversation with DJ Mangas, who was one of the youngest offensive coordinators in Division I football at the College of William and Mary. He is currently transitioning into his next opportunity, but we see big things ahead for him in the future. Pags and I also dive into the upcoming conference championship games, give our picks. Hopefully you guys can win some money off of those, or at least off of mine, and you don't take Pagliero's picks. But like I mentioned, it's a great show. Come on in, lend us your ears. We appreciate it.
Coach, you were 5-79 last year. Why the playoff talk?
Well, we made a couple of key trades, and we got the funk.
Glory be, the funk's on me, Bobby. Keep that funk alive. Keep that funk alive. Well, it's 1975, and we just be keeping the funk alive. Do that funk. Just do that funk. So what that? Do that funk. Just do that funk.
What's going on, listeners? This is the 7th episode of the 2Close2Call podcast with your co-host, Miho. I'm here with my boy, Pags. Pags, are you finally back on the East Coast with us?
I am alive. That's all I could say. No, it was fun. We did the top golf thing, which I had never done before, which was a lot of fun. And one day, we go out to a ranch. Have you ever been horseback riding, Kev?
I have, but it was probably about 15 years ago at this point in Colorado. My sister liked to do it on some of our trips when I went out there for baseball. It's been about 150 pounds ago.
Let me just paint this picture for you. We go out to this ranch, middle of nowhere. I don't know if you've ever seen Breaking Bad, but it's basically like Breaking Bad when he goes to kill his brother-in-law. And it is beautiful scenery everywhere. Break into groups. One group goes on a horseback ride where you're basically making a U-shape to the middle of nowhere, and then you're bringing them back. So the first group goes, they all get on their horses, they're out. I'm with the other group where there's 4 horses, and we're broken into teams. Our job is to get on horses. The guy picks one of the cattle, and we have to basically, you're herding these cattle into a gate, and the team to do it the fastest wins. So there's 4 horses. My group has 5 people. The other 4 get on it, and they're like, you're a bigger guy. We're going to put you on this horse. I look at this horse. This horse is fucking huge. It's fucking huge. And it's going ape shit. Going, whatever noise horse makes. It's neighing all over the place. Does not want me to get on top of it.
Doesn't want this fat ass to ride it.
And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm a little nervous now. I wasn't there. We had to sign waivers and stuff. Like, the guy describing it at the beginning was like, guys, anything could happen. These are animals. They could do anything. So I'm like, okay. Now I'm getting a little nervous. Finally, the guy's like, you're the big guy. You're getting on this one. I'm like, all right. I get on. The guy's like, hold the reins. You're holding it too tight. You're holding it too tight. I literally let go of the reins. And the thing just stands there. And then all of a sudden it starts going rogue on me. And I'm like, okay, what do I do? I have 0 training. All I've seen is this guy showing me how to turn the horse left, how to turn the horse right. There's no fucking brakes. There's no emergency brake. I'm like, what am I going to do?
You're a professional jockey at this point.
Exactly. My group is standing there. Their horses are standing still. The one girl that's in my group, she's a mother of 3. She's going, Jamie, keep your horse away from me. Keep your horse away from me. My horse starts running to the other end. We're in this little arena, fenced-in area. This horse starts running, and I'm holding on for dear life. All of a sudden, this horse starts bucking up in the air, kicking its back legs.
Dude, you're in a rodeo, baby. Let's go.
we have a whole arena of my coworkers in there. They're laughing at first. Then all of a sudden, everyone's just like, this shit's kind of serious. And this horse is going nuts. I'm holding on for dear life. I swear, if it was a smaller person, they're going flying. They're breaking their neck. All I'm thinking in my head is, if this is how I'm going out, I'm going to be really fucking pissed.
All I'm thinking in my head
horse,
is, thank God Pags has ridden the bull at Xfinity Live and knows what to do in this instance.
So finally the horse gets to the edge of the gate and it throws on the brakes. And I'm standing there. And meanwhile, the whole time, all this guy that is instructing us can say to me is, hold on! Hold on!
Thank you, you
like,
fuck!
I am just like, oh, what, is somebody going to freaking help me? Finally, I just said, fuck it. And I jumped off the horse and I sprinted away from it.
Dude,
this
you're
horse,
like, you were a rodeo clown, man, without the, without the makeup.
What it felt like. And it was funny. My one buddy decided halfway through of it, he was like, you know what, I'm going to videotape this because something crazy could happen.
That's amazing. We'll have to get a hold of that video. Throw it on our Instagram page.
The horse was sprinting around the area, going crazy, and the one lady comes up to me and she's like, "Congratulations, you're the first one to cowboy up." And I'm like, thanks.
That's an amazing statement. Oh shit.
And then she goes to me, she goes, well, it really was sad because all its friends went on that walk and we kept it here in the arena. So they literally had to lock this horse in a little square cage, and this horse just started fucking sprinting around in circles, screaming and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my God.
I love it.
Like, I tried to calm that thing down. It just did not work. But,
man.
Excited to be back on the East Coast. Jumping into our 7th episode here. I'm here to live to tell the 7th episode of the 2Close2Call podcast.
I know that's all you were thinking is, fuck, I can't give my favorite number 7 of all time. I was waiting.
I can't talk about my favorite 7 because I've been looking forward to this number 7 because I thought Jeff Garcia was number 5 for the longest time, and you're like, no, he was 7. So, my 7 is a collective group of Eagles quarterbacks who I love. Jeff Garcia, that dude. He jumped in that year with McNabb out.
Playoff victory?
Him. Dude, it was just a bunch of Eagle quarterbacks that just stick in my mind. Like Mike Vick, not Mike Vick, but the Falcons. Mike Vick with the Birds. That was one of the more exciting times as an Eagles fan. I mean,
Monday
the comeback
night,
against
Mike
the Giants. Vick. Oh, yeah. The comeback against the Giants, 38-10, coming back, winning that game. And Deshaun Jackson gets all the credit for that win, which, yeah, his punt return was unbelievable. But Vic he was rifling that ball into people that game in the second half. And then, of course, everybody's favorite analyst, Jaws, one of your jerseys.
The country club man himself.
Yeah, he's got all the golf courses. He's the man.
Living the dream.
But, so those are my 7s.
I like it. I'm playing off of you. An Eagles quarterback. However, when he wore 7, he was not an Eagles quarterback.
Who's that?
Mr. Randall Cunningham. Number 7 for the Minnesota Vikings in 98 with him, Chris Carter, Randy Moss. One of the best fucking offenses to ever play. Rocked number 7 that year when they went, I think, 15-1?
He was number 7 that year. I always see him as 12. But, yeah, now I can see the purple and him just chucking the ball 80 yards to Randy Moss.
Right, just slinging the shit out of it. Probably the best team ever to not win the Super Bowl. Them and the Patriots, the undefeated Patriots, those two.
They had no business losing that game that year to the Dirty Bird Falcons.
Oh, God, right? But, hey, speaking of the Patriots, how am I not going to hammer them with fucking like $500 on a line that's plus 350? They're literally the highest odds to win the Super Bowl right now. The Patriots, are you kidding me?
Because they're going to lose this weekend.
No, they're fucking not, Pags. It's Tom Brady. It's the Patriots.
I hear you, man, but I think Andy Reid, I think the football gods are finally giving him his shot at a Super Bowl.
This is the game Andy Reid loses every time.
I understand that, but let me give you a little spin zone here. The NFL gods shamed him for the last time last year by letting his protege in 2 years take the team that he had taken to this playoffs however many times to the Super Bowl and won it. And that's the last time the NFL gods are going to laugh at Andy Reid.
There is no spin zone, Pags. We've seen this movie 8 to 10 years in a row. Tom Brady does not lose this game Andy Reid loses this game. What are you talking about?
I just think that the Chiefs have a shot at upsetting them. I know they're not the favorites.
The Chiefs are the favorite, man. 3.5. That's what I'm saying.
That,
How do I
still
not take the
upset when you
Patriots
beat
in the
Brady.
points? It's unbelievable. It's like Alabama being an underdog. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and Alabama was favored this year, and they got freaking smoked.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. You imagine if they were the underdog, how many people would be betting on them? And now they're the highest favorite at plus 350. Holy shit, man. That one's screaming at me.
So you're going Patriots?
You have to. They kick the shit out of the Chargers. I know it's Mahomes and Reed at home, but he loses this game all the time, and Tom Brady doesn't. It's just, until I see a sequel that isn't the exact same fucking plot line as the first movie, I can't go against it.
Our listeners have no reason to pick my picks, because I'm constantly wrong. But I'm going to go one more time against the Patriots. If the Patriots win this one, then I'm going to be like, you know what? Maybe I'll just pick them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
so
and then their
they'll
fucking
lose.
odds will plummet because they'll probably be the favorite. It's crazy.
Maybe it is the time to bet on them.
It's the time to get in at plus 350 because, dude, at plus 350, guess who else is plus 350? The fucking Rams. How many people are giving the Rams a true legitimate shot to not only beat the Saints, but also beat the AFC winner in the Super Bowl? You'd win the same amount of money if that happens as if the Patriots win.
I'm sure not picking the Rams. I'm going Saints. I'm going Drew Brees. I'm going the Superdome/Metrodome. I'm going the crowd there. I'm going Kamara. I'm going Ingram. I'm going Michael Thomas. I mean, they beat them before in the Superdome, and Goff had a lot of trouble there. I think similar outcome.
Now, I know some of the ingredients on that side are the Saints have not been playing their best football for almost a month and a half, 2 months now. I thought Dallas would go into L.A., be able to run the football, dominate the line of scrimmage. The Rams proved me wrong there. So if the big uglies can travel and they can dominate the line of scrimmage, I think they'll have a chance. But I'm on your side, man. I would take the Saints at home. And just the fact that literally the Rams and Patriots are on the same level, according to Vegas, just astounds me that nobody's hammering that. So the Saints, Patriots, I'm going with the old heads over the young quarterbacks. Do you think there's anything to that specifically with the quarterback position, or do you think it's going to be more of an overall team thing?
Oh, I think it's absolutely the quarterbacks. I mean, those guys have been doing it for so long. Do you think that Breeze loses games in the Superdome? He doesn't.
Has not yet. Him and Peyton.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't change now. And I think the Eagles had a better shot with the Saints just because the Eagles' run defense was so good. I think that Kamara and Ingram are really going to get after the Saints because, I mean, the Eagles have ran the ball in the Rams too. And, I mean, the Cowboys didn't do the best, but you said in L.A., this one's in New Orleans. I think the Saints are going to dominate the game.
So that's it. You heard it here first. You don't even have to watch this weekend. We're going to have a Saints-Patriots game in a couple of weeks. No problem.
When's the last time we had a really two old quarterbacks who have done it for 10-plus years in the Super Bowl battling it out? I can't remember the last time we've had that.
The last one where they're saying it was 2 locks for the Hall of Fame was years and years ago, and the closest you can get, and at that point he wasn't a lock, was Kurt Warner, I think, versus, oh gosh, who was it in 05?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady or Roethlisberger, the Cardinals-Steelers game. Yeah, I think that's it. And like you mentioned, the quarterback position, we actually have a previous college quarterback as well as wide receiver and offensive coordinator joining the show to talk a little bit further about the games this weekend. So, Pags, you want to let our listeners know who's coming on here?
Yeah, so we got my buddy DJ Mangas, played quarterback and wide receiver at the College of William & Mary with me, and we were roommates for 5 years. One of the smarter football minds out there. I think he has a very bright future. He has the work ethic, and I think people are going to be like, wow, the 2Close2Call podcast grabbed DJ Mangas. Yeah, we did, and it was really early in the time.
DJ Mangas before he's the next Sean McVay.
Yep, that's we're gonna get his name out there, and he's gonna be coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars in 5 years.
That's it. So, but yeah, listeners, I think you're gonna enjoy that interview with DJ coming up here. So, hang on for a second. We'll get into that.
Coach, you were 5-79 last year. Why the playoff talk?
Well, we made a couple of key trades, and we got the funk.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have DJ Mangas, a former wide receiver quarterback at the College of William & Mary. In his senior year, he had a team-high 45 receptions for 591 yards and 5 TDs as a slot receiver. In those 5 TDs, he managed to never celebrate with your boy right here for a single one of them. After college, he had a coaching stint at Hampden-Sydney College, Georgetown, and William & Mary, where he worked his way up to being the second youngest OC in college football history. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend and former teammate, DJ Mangas. DJ, what's going on, my man?
Yes, Mango.
Thank you. Lovely introduction. How you guys doing?
You never celebrated with me once.
Not once. And there's several pictures, obviously, after you score a touchdown. You know, the cameras are going, and there you are right next to me, but there I am celebrating with – I found a way to celebrate with somebody else every time for whatever reason. Roommates, true roommates right there.
So what's going on, my man? You doing good?
I am currently in transition right now, trying to figure out what the next phase, the next chapter of my life is and where I'm going to be in the coaching world. So it gives me time to reflect and gain some perspective on what I want to do and where I want to go from here. So, yeah, it's been good, just trying to figure out what that next phase is.
That's awesome, DJ. So you have a pretty nice resume you've thrown together. Like Pag said, you were, the second youngest D1 offensive coordinator, I think it was, after 5 years. So you started as the running backs coach, correct? And then worked your way up. How did that work internally? I guess, did you move up one step every year, or how'd you eventually end up as an OC at that young of an age?
So like you guys said, I started out, my first job was at Hampden-Sydney, and actually the head coach there, Marty Favret, caught me at a spring practice of my senior spring semester. I volunteered at William & Mary, and he recruited me out of high school, so he remembered me, saw me coaching, knew I wanted to get into coaching. Eventually I interviewed there, got a job coaching quarterbacks, coaching literally a scholarship University of Tennessee quarterback who decided to transfer to not 1AA, not D2, but a Division III school, which was absolutely unheard of and made me look pretty good as a coach. I ended up going to Georgetown for my next job up in D.C., and they're a non-scholarship program in the Patriot League, and I interviewed for that thing and ended up getting it pretty quickly after. Anyways, from there, that was my first experience of really coaching anything that had to do with the run game, because like you said, I played receiver and quarterback at William & Mary, so my experience was more pass game, and Georgetown allowed me to get more experience in the run game and more experience with protections and things like that. So I became a lot more well-rounded as a result. And then William & Mary had some transition the following year, and being an alum, I was fortunate enough for them to give me an interview, and I did okay, and they ended up hiring me and did 3 years as the running backs coach to kind of enhance that knowledge of the run game on top of the pass game. And I got to learn from Kevin Rogers, who he's been the offensive coordinator at Syracuse. He's a William & Mary grad, but he's been the offensive coordinator at Syracuse when they had your boy McNabb.
Hey,
yeah. And,
I know, man.
Yeah, that's right. Which you guys, I listened to one of your guys' podcasts, and I think, what do you guys do? A number of the day for every the day the podcast is, or something?
The number of the episode. Today's number 7. Who's your favorite number 7? Drop it while it's hot.
The first one that comes to mind is Elway. I'll give a shout out to my man Mike Callahan.
Hey-o.
He was a solid number 7. I know I'll appreciate that. Vic, of course. I'm sure there's someone obvious that I'm forgetting, but
Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws. No, that definitely did not cross my mind.
As a Redskins fan, not so much, right?
Yeah.
So eventually you get the OC job, right, at William & Mary. How'd that interview process go from like the running backs coach to the OC? Did they make you throw plays on a whiteboard? Was it breaking down film? I guess how long of a process was it, and kind of what were the steps there? Because I'm sure the listeners are interested in kind of a behind the scenes look that way.
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily do your standard interview. You come in and talk with the head coach, and you end up meeting with the offensive staff and the defense. Because I was already there. Like I said, I learned from Kevin Rogers. Kevin Rogers was the OC for the 4 years, for 4 years at William & Mary, the 3 years while I was there. And he's, I learned a ton from him, and he decided to retire. So basically that was right before spring ball had started. With him retiring, typically we have 5 coaches on staff. Well, now all of a sudden we have 4, which is, we don't have GAs or quality control coaches at William & Mary. So that was tough. It's tough, with 5 coaches as it is. So anyways, myself and the other 3 coaches that were still on staff, obviously all of us wanted to be considered for the coordinating position. What Coach Laycock ended up doing, I think just because I had the most experience with the passing game and quarterbacks, is he told me to coach the running backs and the quarterbacks for the spring. I made sure I let it be known that I was interested in being the offensive coordinator. I felt like I was ready, and I'm sure the other coaches on staff did as well. We went through spring ball with 4 coaches. I coached the running backs and the quarterbacks. And then after spring ball, shortly from there, essentially that was my interview, spring ball. Just seeing how, I could coach the quarterbacks and kind of coordinate a practice and structure it and those types of things that go hand in hand with coordinating. And shortly after spring, I guess I must have done well enough to where he decided to name me coordinator, and that was that, and kind of move forward from there. So no secret plays on the whiteboard, nothing of that nature that led me to the job.
Take me through a day in the life in the spring as you're coordinating one of these practices. You're in the office afterwards, putting together a 7-on-7 flow. The Oklahoma drill. I'm assuming you're only wearing shells at this point. So how did, behind the scenes, kind of coordinating and setting that up? Were you dictating off of film from previous years, or I guess what ultimately were you trying to improve upon or establish an identity, or what were the thoughts there?
It changes every year. A lot of it depends on, what you did the year before and kind of what you have coming back as far as talent and production. Do you have your starting quarterback coming back, which for our sake, we had a quarterback that started 35 straight games, which is unheard of at, almost any level, that graduated. And so we didn't have a quarterback. So that was a huge thing for us going into the spring. But so that was the big focal point.
So you ran a quarterback competition essentially in the spring.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was 2 guys. I mean, we had a 5-way battle, which again, another thing that's a little unique, and that was tough to balance during the spring. I mean, you want to talk about what I did on a daily basis.
Yeah, take me behind the scenes there, because the local listeners with the Foles-Wentz debate will be kind of curious on how to run a quarterback room, how you determined via practice who was looking the best, who commanded the huddle. Kind of take us back there, because that's a very interesting, firsthand point of view that you have that a lot of people will never get.
Basically, our practice as a team, as an offense, was structured around making sure each one of these guys, and keep in mind it's 5 guys, which, they're only getting 8 to 10 reps of practice just by the way that we practice, whether, I'm talking about between 7-on-7, team versus scouts, against essentially a scout team look, not our actual defense. And then team versus defense, we get a bunch of reps, but when you're trying to, split it up between 5 different quarterbacks, it's tough. So they get limited reps. So every rep is huge for them. So basically, the way I tried to structure and plan in what we call script the practice, I would make sure this quarterback got 3 reps of, half of his reps were runs. So each quarterback, I tried to split it 50-50. And then they got these certain passes. So one was a play action, one was a drop back, one was a screen. So they're getting, different play types, different pass types. And they're also getting kind of a fair shot, a fair chance to, show us what they can do and show that they're capable and also grow as a player. So that was kind of the thought process. I mean, people ask, what the hell do you football coaches do all day? It ain't that hard, right? You got practice. You just coach them at practice, and maybe there's a little bit of planning beforehand. But, I mean, it's literally we plan all day. We watch the film. We try to learn from the film, and then we plan again and plan off of that practice.
What I'm very interested in is with the coaches and you being with the quarterbacks in the receivers majority of the time, you said you got into the run game a little bit more when you were the running backs coach. Did you grow an appreciation for what the O-line does and the amount on their plates when they're on the field? Because we call ourselves mushrooms. You feed us shit and keep us in the dark, and we grow. You have more of appreciation for your O-line big uglies?
Yeah, I've kind of transformed as far as my thought process as a coordinator, as a coach. I mean, just if you look at what we did statistically last season compared to the season before, our run game was not even close to what it was the year before. So in a whole, I've learned you have to be able to run the ball to win ball games, to win games, period, to score points. And, you look at receivers, you look at quarterbacks, running backs, any other position, tight ends not so much. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of guys that, they're moody. There's some highs, there's some lows. You're not really sure what you're going to get. You got 18 to 22-year-olds, and especially when they're maybe not getting their piece or their touches during practice or obviously games, you can see their mood change and their attitude change a little bit. And I think that happens anywhere. But offensive linemen, you don't hear them bitching or complaining because, one, they don't get touches. They don't get any of the glory. You don't see their names in headlines. You don't see them in articles. They don't get nearly enough credit, not trying to kiss your ass in saying this. But, I mean, those guys literally, they are what make an offense go. They're what wins games at the end of the day, and they are the most selfless, typically the most selfless guys on the team for those reasons. Woo! So, yes. Was that a good answer?
Toot toot. Jesus Christ.
And you forgot to mention that their practices fucking suck.
And they're the best looking guys on the team and all that stuff. Oh my God.
And you're the fattest.
It's gross.
Right.
So, but no, DJ, you mentioned earlier that there was recently some transition at William & Mary, so you're looking to move forward into the next stage of your career, take what you've learned kind of to the next steps. And one of the main networking events that happens every year is the coaches, I don't know what they call it, a clinic, but I believe coaching convention. There you go. So I believe that was in San Antonio recently, and you were able to attend. Do you have any stories you can share on your experience there? Did you see any of the big programs, any of the big coaches, have any conversations there that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, so basically this thing, especially when you're in transition like I am, and there's several other staff members, it's part of the profession. I mean, it literally, I think it's been 25% of the NFL coaching staffs have been let go. I don't know what the percentage is in college, but I mean, it's people understand what you're going through, and they know eventually it will probably happen to them if it hasn't already, if you coach long enough. Anyways, this convention, I mean, I don't know how many coaches exactly, but I'd have to think a couple thousand from all over the country, from every level. And there's high school coaches too, D3 all the way up to Division I, the major programs. And essentially, I think what it's designed to do is obviously network, but there's clinics, there's presentations. It's supposed to be a learning experience. Don't be fooled. People aren't going to this thing to learn. Some are. It's a drinking fest, that's for sure. At the end of the day, I mean, college football coaches in general, definitely like their alcohol. So it's a
lot of
3-day
ex-players there having some fun.
Yep, no doubt.
His little wife getaway.
Yes. Well, you know what? You'd be surprised. They've actually done there were a lot of wives there. Maybe there's a little bit of lack of trust there. I don't know. But they do a good job. The convention, this is a guy that doesn't have a wife nor a girlfriend saying this, but it seems like they've included females and wives more and more each and every year. I've gone to the convention. They have different events and meetings and, clinics and whatever to try to include them. Anyways, this whole thing, I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's a bunch of dudes walking around in 2 big rooms, walking, talking, meeting, greeting, BSing, catching up, trying to network. And unless you, at the end of the day, I've come to learn, unless you have something set up ahead of time, meaning, hey, Coach so-and-so from, Florida, whatever it is, let's meet up. I wouldn't be able to set something up like this unless I had some prior interaction, unless I knew him or knew somebody that knew him, and talk in an isolated area away from everyone and just talk football, get to know each other, on top of everything else. So that's kind of what it is. If you don't have something set up like that, I don't want to say it's necessarily a waste of time, but don't expect to walk away with a job, let alone an interview. So for me, at the end of the day, I was going up, and I was, I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. I'd go up to, you name it, you name the program. If I saw it and I knew I had a connection, I'm going up, boom, boom, boom. Here's my story, DJ Mangas. Here's my situation. And for a lot of guys, they don't, it's like, okay, good, nice to meet you. That's great. And they're moving on to the next one.
Moving on.
Plant the seed. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, no one's going to hire you or interview you off a 5 to 10 minute conversation, even though your story might sound great. I mean, at the end of the day, they don't know you, and they don't know anybody that does know you. So it was good to meet a lot of these guys, and down the road, I can say, yeah, we talked at the convention, or I'll follow up with them after the convention and shoot them a text and say, hey, I'd love to come through for spring ball, and maybe that would, a spring ball practice and visit, and, obviously a nice learning tool, and spend some time with them and talk some actual football. But you got to keep in mind, like, I went up to one coach who's a part of an SEC program. I won't name his name. And I did have a connection.
Name drop, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it because, like I said, well,
that's bullshit
for a lot of reasons. But anyways, I saw him by himself, which is a rare opportunity. Big program, and I had a connection. So I went right up to him, shook his hand, gave him my story. He didn't want to hear it. Was walking as I was talking and was like, okay, that's great. Good to see you. Take care. I learned that a big reason why I think he did this is because I'm in an area of thousands of guys. He's at a big program a lot of people want to be a part of. If he stands there, gives me the time of day, talks to me, he's opening the door for the rest of those guys who want the exact same thing I want, and that's a job with anybody, let alone that program. So he's going to be sitting and standing there all day talking to people that, he probably can't help at the end of the day. So my most productive conversations were on elevators or areas where...
That elevator pitch, baby. Welcome to the sales world.
Welcome to the sales world, baby.
I perfected it. Yeah, no doubt.
It sounds like SEC coaches are more like the hot chicks at the bar, and you're trying to get in your 2 minutes pitch to take them home with you.
Yeah, so, I know you bring that up because that's literally what I compared it to. You're walking around with thousands of dudes. Everyone wants the same thing. Whether you have a job or you don't, they want the next job. They want the job with the best program, period. So you got all these guys walking around, and as soon as you see Notre Dame, you're going up and talking to them. As soon as you see Florida, you're going up and talking to them. As soon as you see Bama wasn't there because they were playing, but you get the point. Those guys represent essentially the hot chicks at the bar. And you see those schools, those programs, every single dude wants to go up and talk to them. And it's funny, a lot of guys, they don't really know what to say. And it's, that's kind of relatable too. You're at a bar.
I say guys never know what to say, man.
Yeah. And you're like, oh my God, what do I say to this girl? You're caught up in, how hot she is. And, you're caught up in how big this program is. How big this program is and how big time this coach is, so you learn to figure out how to have a conversation.
Sure.
So you had mentioned that Bama wasn't there, and obviously you guys were there over the national championship. What was the take of 1,000-some coaches in a room watching that national title game?
You'd be surprised. You think they'd all be locked in, and, everyone's an expert too. Everyone thinks they know or have the answers. And again, it's everyone's looking for a job. So it's like, oh, did you see that? They ran power. Well, no, they ran power read, or they're doing this coverage. Everyone's like trying to show off their knowledge, one. And two, a lot of them are there to network, so they're not even watching the game. So I actually hate watching the game at the convention. Typically what I do is I go back to my hotel room with a couple of, my buddies, and we watch it so we can actually watch it. But this year I'm in transition, so I actually went to one of the bars and tried to network a little bit, and I did not watch the game, of course, like I wanted to. It's interesting, but you'd be surprised. It's not like people are as engaged as you might think, given that's our profession, that's what we do, and this is the biggest game of the year.
I'd like to think that all the D1 coaches watching that game were like, we are all so fucked. These two teams are going to be so good for so many years.
Yeah, well, both of them already have been. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, it's going to be the same song and dance for the next 10 years, I feel like, with all those guys coming back. And then you look at how'd they do in recruiting? Oh, they're right there, top 5. Okay, so
yeah.
I mean, obviously with Sunshine and the other freshman receiver, Clemson is now your favorite. And DJ, you touched on networking, obviously, being in transition. Somebody already in your network, however, is Joe Brady, offensive assistant for the Saints, who we've touched his name in the past, but we're eventually going to get him on when the Saints, after they win the Super Bowl or after they lose. That's coming up here.
After they win it.
Exactly. So, but you were actually down in the Superdome this past weekend for the divisional round. So how was your experience down there? How was the atmosphere? What are your thoughts on the Eagles nearly pulling that one out?
I got to compare notes with Callie on the Metrodome experience for sure. No, it was awesome. I mean, Brady, what he's doing is cool to say the least. I mean, he's as involved as any other coach, at least from my perspective. And you wouldn't think that necessarily of a guy who's titled an offensive assistant, but I mean, Peter King came out. He's a writer for Sports Illustrated. This just kind of proves the point. He came out with an article of a day in the life, or I think it was like a week in the life of the Saints, and more specifically the Saints offense, and even more specifically Sean Payton, the head coach, because he calls the plays. And in the article, they talk about this meeting. I think it's Saturday nights before the game, where he's meeting with Breeze and literally going through the game plan, which is it's extensive to say the least. I think sometimes Brady's told me they've had somewhere around 180 plays, and you got to think. I mean, NFL teams, they run 70 to 80 plays tops in a game. A lot of them are in that 60 to 70 range. So Breeze tries to eliminate plays, and basically pick out his favorite pass plays. And Peter King has a picture in this article of Sean Payton at the head of the table, Drew Brees to his right, and guess who's to his left? None other than Joe Brady. And then you got the offensive coordinator, Pete Carmichael, and the quarterbacks coach, Joe Lombardi, in the same room. So it's those 5, and Brady's right there. So it's pretty awesome what he's got the opportunity, what he's had the opportunity to do. Now, I literally was texting him earlier this morning, and he's talking about how they were up till 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting ready to play the Rams. And I think that's 3 times a week. That's the lifestyle that people don't see, the work that they put in. But yeah, I fly down, and I know you guys are Eagles fans, and your millions of listeners are predominantly Eagles fans.
That's right.
So I'm, I flew out of Baltimore, and it's Spirit Airlines, which is you've probably never heard of it, and if it's the cheapest one out there. So
it's luxurious.
Yeah, but Eagles fans don't know if they're playing in this game until obviously they win the week before. So this was the cheapest flight out there. It's not far because it's in Baltimore. So naturally there's a lot of green in the airport. And it's funny, I'm waiting in the security lines, and yep, here comes an Eagles fan. Here comes an Eagles fan. And every time they walk through, the little maze of the security line, you just hear, "Go Birds, go Birds." So it was pretty cool. And then you get through security. I'm at the Green Turtle, which is a little restaurant they had. It's a Maryland chain, I think.
It's a fun time.
Yeah, fun time, surrounded by Eagles fans. I mean, I started up a conversation with one of them, and of course they're going to the game, and naturally my, icebreaker is, so you guys going to the game? They got all this Eagles gear and, the Philly hats, and the one guy, Pags, I think I sent you the picture, had the double doink shirt.
Yeah.
And on the back it said, "Pardon me?" Anyways, it was funny. And then his buddy, to outdo him, had something about Big Dick Nick is back. And then on the back it said number 9, Foles, but it had like the little inch symbol, so 9 inches on the back. I was telling my dad about it. He's like, "What? Big Dick Nick, where does that come from?" And I was like, I guess it rhymes with Nick. Is that like as creative as you guys get, or is there evidence out there, or what's?
Oh, that's factual.
That's factual.
Yeah. Been confirmed by teammates.
Okay, because I was gonna say I don't think Foles seems like the type of guy that you would
It's
necessarily
been confirmed
know.
via silence, via teammates.
I got you.
Basically, when he goes to the bathroom, he has to Be careful.
Yeah. So anyways,
you get down there, the game's Eagles come out on fire. What was it like? Was it silent? Like,
oh yeah,
it was 14 to nothing, man. It was pretty awesome here.
You know, and I'm a Redskins fan, but I haven't watched those guys consistently enough. My, fandom or whatever you want to call it has not necessarily the same. So I was telling you, Pags, last week when we talked, that I almost found myself like wanting the Eagles to beat the Bears because I think Foles' story is so cool. And obviously Brady's with the Saints, so I was pulling for them. But one of my conversations with you and with the Eagles fans at the Green Turtle was Foles is good, but Wentz is the guy of the future. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. I think it sounds like most Eagles fans agree with that. And I'm watching this first quarter, and first of all, the Saints were beating themselves. I mean, they breezed through a pick. It looked like he underthrew him first play of the game, and then he had a fumble, and they had a false start. And the Eagles and Foles comes out just firing, and I'm looking at it thinking this dude is a legit starter. I don't know what these guys are talking about. Like, this guy can win in this league and take a team to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. I think he's good enough. Just based off, this is jumping to conclusions pretty fast. And then obviously he came back down to earth after that, but he was making some throws. The place was silent, and that place is as loud as it's hyped up to be, and that ended up being a factor at the end of the day. But yeah, it was kind of crazy the way things started off. You thought the Saints, had a lot of rust clearly, and the Eagles were rolling, and obviously that changed. It seemed like once Fletcher Cox went out. I don't know if that's how you guys saw it, but
I think once he pulled through the pick, it was like, man, that would have been a 21-point.
And then the fake punt.
Yeah, the fake punt.
Well, guess what happened on the fake punt? Your boy Fletcher Cox, it was the same play. The fake punt and Fletcher Cox get hurt on the same play. And I think that really changed the game.
So we had a debate last episode about the kicker. The Saints missed the kick, 20-14. They're driving. 2-minute warnings coming up. They run the play. Goes through Alshon's hands. As a coach, as an offensive coordinator, are you looking to go to the 2-minute warning after a first down? It's 1st and 10, or are you looking to get a play in with the flow of the game, with you moving finally in the second half?
First of all, I've got a whole new perspective of calling plays, being a coordinator. It is a whole lot tougher, harder, and I've got a whole lot of respect for, I'm assuming Peterson calls the plays, and, anybody that calls plays, especially at a high level. But from my perspective there, and I don't pay a whole lot of attention to the news and the articles, but one of the things I did see was, did Alshon Jeffrey cost the Eagles season, which is an absolutely ridiculous headline to think one guy can cost the season, let alone a game for a team. But when I was watching it, I was thinking, all right, these guys are going to take it down to the 2-minute warning. They're down 6. They need a touchdown. I think they had one timeout at that moment. They were on, the 40 going in. They were in good shape. It looked like they rushed to get this play in. And when you rush to get a play in and you try to get it off, naturally it's going to lead to a higher likelihood of something going wrong. Is that something Eagles fans talked about? I mean, did they say you guys rushed or it looked like you guys were kind of out of sorts when the play was snapped, or is it all on Alshon?
So they didn't rush to the line of scrimmage, but it was certainly an up-tempo play. Like, they snapped the ball at 2:01, and it certainly was a no-huddle. We had 2 plays called, run up and get this one in before the 2-minute warning. So it was certainly up-tempo, and I understand that increases the likelihood of something negative happen. However, I don't think it was at the pace where they were scrambling. Foles was like, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball type of thing. So it really was that gray area of, we could just wait another second, regroup, but at the same time, like Pags mentioned, this is the first time we've really had the Saints on their heels in 45 minutes of gameplay. We haven't scored since 5 minutes left in the first quarter, so there was a roughing the passer called. We were moving, and, kind of like you're mentioning, maybe the up-tempo leads to Jeffrey turning his head upfield just a little bit early and not fully looking in the ball, but like you mentioned, it's not one of those things where the entire game is riding on Jeffrey literally tipping the ball to the defensive player.
Right. You throw that ball to him 100 times, catching it 98 times. That guy, he's one of the more sure-handed guys in the league, and the play was executed great, and that's why I got into an argument with my dad about it, and I'm like, play was there. You can't get mad at Peterson. The play was there.
Right.
And, yeah, you can get mad at Crouchon for dropping it. I mean, it's just an unfortunate play. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, bottom line, I mean, like you said, it hit Alshon in the hands, and you're a professional player, you're a high school player, you're a youth league player, you got to catch it.
Absolutely.
And he did. But what I will say is, and I think you're right, Kev, in saying that, it wasn't like they were just absolutely out of control. But I thought they were in position. If you're a team, I think more often than not, you'd rather take the time to make sure everyone's on the same page. That would be the 2-minute warning rather than do a no-huddle situation. But if you felt like you had them on their heels, then, yeah, that gives you – you're also giving the defense time to get on the same page and, kind of –
double-edged sword there, for sure.
True that.
For sure. But you touched on Breeze earlier, and moving into next week, I want to get your thoughts on, your quarterback background and if this is going to make a huge difference. But obviously you have the two old dogs. You got Breeze and Brady, who have been there. They're 40 years old. It's unbelievable that they're still doing it at this level. And they're facing two guys who in their second year, their combined age is probably right around where Brady or Breeze is. So do you give an advantage to the experience, or do you give an advantage to the youth and not knowing any better and kind of the space and speed aspect that McVay and Reed are now implying?
Yeah, I give the advantage to the team that can run the ball the best and stop the run the best.
So none of it. Fuck me.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm saying that because I think at this point in the season, I don't care how good or bad the quarterback is, you need a run game to help him out. And naturally, at this point in the season, and it kind of doesn't go for the Saints because they're playing indoors, but the weather is drastically different than, you started the season, midway through the season, and I was actually looking at the numbers today. Every single quarterback, except for Breeze, is drastically different. Their numbers, their performance is not nearly as good in the month of December as it is in any other month. And I think for Breeze, it's because he plays indoors. But I mean, yeah, you gotta favor the guys that have been there. You gotta like, the fact that they've been there, they've been in that situation. They know what to expect between Brady and Breeze before and I think Mahomes is good enough to where he can create plays on his own better than anyone in the league, let alone the Final Four, to where, a defense may scheme you up all they want, but nobody's got a defense for a play where the quarterback breaks the pocket and he can still throw it 60 yards across his body. I mean, you can't prepare for that. So, Mahomes has that working in his favor. But, yeah, the experience favors those other two.
Sure. So you mentioned the run game being a key, and I want to get your thoughts on a run scheme more so than running individually, because I always complain to Pags and whoever's willing to listen that the Eagles' run scheme sometimes drive me nuts. When they're in the shotgun, they just hand the ball off. All the linemen literally go straight forward, and they just try to get a push and get 2 yards. I need more complex runs, misdirection, motion, pre-snap. Like, is there something to all of that noise in the nonsense, or is it more so just, hey, line up and we're bigger, stronger, faster? Because a lot of that confusion, I think, really helps, and that's what I think Andy Reid's doing a great job of, because we've seen the transition from the stud running back who's no longer on the team to somebody whose name we didn't know, and they're still being successful.
There's a lot of theories on that, from being simple and just making sure you can do something that your guys can execute at a high level versus, okay, you can do it at a high level, but the defense knows what you're going to do, and they're going to play that run, and regardless of how well you can do it, they're going to be able to stop it. I think in the NFL, defenses are so good, and these guys are in their 18th, 19th game. They've been doing this for 20 weeks. They meet 2 to 3 hours a day. Yes, you need to have some versatility in the run game. You need to be able to mix it up. You need to have perimeter runs. You need to have runs where you're pulling guards and even tackling. Instead of just inside zone is probably what you're referring to, or this run concept that I think every NFL team is doing now called duo, which is for you Pags or any, sophisticated football listeners out there, not to sell you short, Kev, is power with no pull. That's probably what you're referring to is what the Eagles have been doing. And yeah, I think the more versatility you have, you just have to know that your guys can execute. And at the NFL, at this point in the season, you should be able to execute
So the Eagles transitioned a lot to the under center run with what I believe is the wham scheme with either Ertz or Goddard coming across the formation underneath. And that opened up because that's still the inside power run, but you're at least given a trap look or some sort of misdirection. The D tackle's going, oh, fuck, I'm free. Oh, shit, there's a guy. Like there's some sort of communication that needs to be had instead of Kelsey and Brooks just being like, oh, guy in front of me, block this guy. It's just it drives me insane because they get 1 yard and I'm like, well, that was a fucking waste of a play because nothing happened there. It doesn't set anything up later. Maybe a play action, but again, the linemen aren't given any sort of look to throw off the linebackers or the second level, and it just drives me nuts.
I don't disagree, and I think, and like you're saying, the wham block or the wham run that the Eagles have been doing, that became more and more popular this year because of the Eagles, from what I saw at least. More teams started doing it, and the benefit is obviously if you've got a good defensive tackle, for those guys to think they can just come through, you got to get creative in how you block those guys. Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh is who the Saints are facing this week. I mean, they got to get creative. They can't just expect to win matchups up front with those guys. But, yeah, I agree. And you mentioned the pass game. It not only helps your run game to have versatility, but you got to be able to set up the pass, within your run scheme. And it's only going to help it, by doing some different things there and giving those linebackers more to think about because that's really who you're trying to affect.
We got our good football talk in. Now let's get down to the crux of it. Sunday, Beach, Chiefs, Patriots. Who you think?
Patriots.
Not even a thought.
Here's my reasoning is because I think the Patriots, I know statistically they run the ball better. And Mahomes in the passing game is not as effective. They're playing outdoors. I don't know what the weather is. Yeah, it's going to be cold. So I just think the run game is just so much more of a factor in those elements that even though Mahomes is probably the better quarterback at this point, which is kind of crazy to say, or at least more of
hot take.
Right now, he's the MVP. Either him or Breeze.
You're saying Foles is better than Brady because he beat him in the Super Bowl?
Do I think? Well, he didn't beat him.
Hot take.
The Eagles beat him.
Okay.
So you're going Patriots. You're going the old head Brady. Do you have Breeze joining them?
Breeze is joining them. 100%. That one's a little bit harder.
The Rams have a better running game.
The Rams do have a better running game, but guess who has a significantly better run defense? The Saints. The Saints are giving up, I think, something like 80. And that's what I'm sure Eagles fans talked about it, but 51 yards in the second half for the Eagles last week. I mean, I don't know what kind of credit the Saints defense got. Breeze, the offense, Mike Thomas was awesome, but their defense at the end of the day is what won that game. I mean, you give up 51 yards of offense in a half, you're going to win almost every time. And those guys can stop the run. It'll be interesting to see how they match up. And then you got the Breeze factor. I think he's just awesome. I mean, he's on a whole nother level than Goff at this point. And Goff's a good player, and he's going to be a good player. But I think and then you throw in the home field, that place really does make a difference. I mean, that's going to win them a couple of possessions right there, just that home field advantage.
I disagree with you. I think Goff's only good because Sean McVay's in his ear until 15 seconds in the play.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that helps for sure.
Absolutely. But DJ, we appreciate you joining today, man, giving us some insights and behind the scenes look. We wish you the best of luck in your transition moving forward into next year and your networking moving forward, and hopefully everything works out for you. But again, man, thanks for coming on and sharing some knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me. I think it's awesome what you were doing. Look forward to seeing you guys. I'm on my way up today to see you guys.
Let's go.
Look forward to hanging out a little bit.
All right, Deej. You have a good one.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Coach, you were 5-79 last year. Why the playoff talk?
Well, we made a couple of key trades, and we got the funk.
Welcome back. You guys just heard a great interview with DJ Mangas. Pags, what'd you think about it?
I thought it was a really good look into the philosophy of a coach and kind of the behind-the-scene things that you and I was watching the game don't really think of. And honestly, kind of gave me a little perspective for my coaches when I was playing. Didn't realize how much work they actually put in and what they're all thinking about.
Yeah, what he was talking about there with Brady, Breeze, and Peyton in the room before the game was pretty cool. I thought that behind the scenes was neat.
That makes me very excited to interview Brady soon.
Yeah, we're going to have some good content to talk about, too. And I also thought it was hilarious how he was talking about how it's like trying to hook up with a chick at this meeting and get one of these jobs, just throwing the reel out. Hopefully somebody bites.
But you can, imagine, a Notre Dame, a Ohio State coaches walks by, and there's just guys salivating to talk to them. I bet it's a spot on.
I know, the line's probably so long.
I'm sure. And they just don't want to talk to anybody because once the door opens, you talk to one Joe Schmo, you're going to have 100 others trying to talk to them.
That's exactly right. But anyway, that's the 7th episode of the 2Close2Call cast. So we appreciate you guys listening. We got some news for you out there, some good news. So Pags, why don't you let them know the recent update?
Yeah, so now we're officially on Spotify.
Let's go.
If you guys use Spotify podcasting, well, we're on there as well. We are on every well-known app you would want for a podcast. So that's really exciting news. This coming weekend with the NFC and AFC championship games, we're going to throw polls up on our Instagram. Vote. Check it out. Have people check it out. Have them vote. We are on the @2Close2Call cast with the number 2. And we will also be on our Twitter still, Facebook page, and we're still on our YouTube page. So go out there, rate us 5 stars, subscribe to us, and enjoy the games this weekend.
Yeah, guys, the reviews and the 5 stars, those are huge. We're reading on how to improve the podcast, how to get some more visibility out there. And they say the reviews, the comments, everything like that is a big deal. So we appreciate you guys who have done it in the past. Keep doing it in the future. Share with your friends. Paul?
Share it with your friends. I think that's because I think a lot of people have similar conversations like this with their friends. And I think get it out to everybody you know that would like this.
That's it, baby. Share it out there. But most importantly, have yourselves a great weekend, and we'll talk to you Monday.
Later, guys.
Peace.